What if I told you there are 5 specific features that could completely revolutionize how you write? Hi, my name is Zara Hoffman. I am the founder of Inimitable Books, and today I am going to show you exactly how to use these 5 game-changing Scrivener features. Whether you've never opened Scrivener before or you've been intimidated by all those menus, by the end of this video, you'll know how to make Scrivener work for you instead of against you. Now, if you don't even have Scrivener yet, that's okay. They offer a free trial as long as you buy it directly from them, and I will put an affiliate link down below in the description. If you're following along this tutorial, please don't worry about making your project look exactly like mine. I have done certain settings to make the appearance more pleasing to my eyes, and that is not something that will be covered in this video. We're focusing on the features that are going to help you write your book and edit your book effectively. The other features that I might mention in passing, or the aesthetic ones that I just did, are going to be covered in a comprehensive PDF guide that I have been working on for over a year that goes much deeper into each feature of Scrivener so that you can learn everything there is to know about this powerhouse of a software. But for now, let's dive into my top 5 favorite features. Today is about showing you some of the possibilities of this software. Let's start with something that will make writing feel like a game instead of a chore: word targets. Most Scrivener alternative writing apps will let you set a daily word count goal, and that's about it. But Scrivener lets you set targets for your entire project, individual documents, and even track writing sessions based on whether or not you close your document or whether or not it is a new day. I'm going to go to Project, Show Project Targets, and you can see just the overview of this feature. If we click on Manuscript Target, I can type in whatever I want. For a session target, if I want to manually reset something because I want to see how much I have written, let's say per sprint, but because of how my brain works, closing out my Scrivener document will make me forget to go back and work on it, and I leave it open. That is not going to work with the automatic setting of reset session target each time I close the software, because I'm not closing the software. Now, this session target is because that is how many words left I need to make my goal, and I had set a deadline and it says days left 1, which is obviously false. So normally it's accurate, but because we're so far off, it doesn't have anything to say. Now, if I clicked options, we have this where if I was an overwriter, I could show overrun and say, I don't want to be more than 10,000 words over my genre's expectations of word count, because then that would cut down on the amount of editing I have to do later. But I'm not an overwriter, so I don't enable this. And then you have your deadline, which at this point is moot, and I really need to look at my own calendar to figure out what that would be, because then it would give you daily targets automatically calculated. And it shows target notifications as a banner here. Now, set at each time on project close, which I already went over, doesn't personally work for me, but it could for you. On the next day opened, so again, that would be on a new day, but not necessarily each day. And then never, which would mean you always have to manually reset it. And if you don't remember that, then this feature is one that you're not using to its maximum capacity. Automatically calculate from draft deadline. So I do that because I like consistency, but if you're someone who knows that you're going to write a little bit one day, but could potentially write a lot another day, then you might want to manually set your target each time. I'm going to click OK so that you can see this. It is automatically set for me. So you wouldn't be able to set it manually and then automatically unless you came into this setting each time. Also, writing days. Our author, Kate Kavanaugh, has made a point multiple times on her videos that she tries to not work on weekends. So she would deselect those days and it would then recalculate based on that. Do you want to allow writing on the day of the deadline? Let's say you're supposed to submit it first thing in the morning. You would probably say no. Allow negatives is if you have deleted more words than you have written in a day, That can be demoralizing, so I don't have that. And then also count text written anywhere in the project. So if you were doing Millwordy back when Kate Kavanaugh started it, and I was doing it as well over on my personal YouTube channel, I was counting any words that I wrote. So that meant outlining words, notes, research, not just draft words. However, if you don't have this checked, it means that it will only count things that are in your manuscript in the binder, which is what most people would use, because a lot of people don't think that outlining words or research words count, even though you are using your brain power. It's your personal decision. Now, the colors, you do appearance and you go down to targets. This is whatever you want it to be. Target progress, use smooth transitions between colors. That's because I think it looks prettier. Show progress in the quick search toolbar item, so that's why this progress bar is up here. And use custom colors in toolbar progress. The red, yellow, green system that they automatically do, like stoplights, was just really harsh in my opinion. So I picked more pastel colors. Now in chapter 1, you can see that there's a line here and it's fully green. We have 1453 words in what was supposed to be a 15 word chapter. I don't fully remember how I calculated the word count target for this book. I believe I took the total target for the genre and then divided it by the number of chapters according to my outline. You'll see that I have scenes within chapters, so we do more math to get there. But we get here and we see this. So I went over, and then we see overrun allowance. Now the reason it is so high is because if I write a fight scene, and I've learned this from previous projects, I know that I can get past 4,000 words in a fight scene. I don't show target notifications for individual scenes. That would just be too many notifications for me. Show allowance in progress bar and show overrun. I don't show the overrun because that would really extend the bar and make it look much more empty than it is. But the minimum target is 1,000 words because I believe that too much shorter and it would not set up the chapter and the story enough. And if I had only 1,000 words, it would turn it green, but it would not be a full bar down here. And the line down here is just showing where the target was and where I ended up. This is a different thing, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, if we were to go into a document where I hadn't set a target yet, did I set targets for all of these? Yes, I did. Okay, so let's make a new document within the binder, and it's untitled, and this is what it looks like if you're setting targets for the first time. It is a bullseye. You tap it, and then you get that menu, and you fill everything in. So that is a quick overview of targets. I hope you found that helpful. This is a game changer for structure and pacing, because you can look at how long, if we go into this view of the whole manuscript, we can see the total target. And the reason we say total is because you'll see the scenes down here are smaller than this, but they add up to this, so I can see how long the whole chapter is and how much I gave myself for each scene. And this actually went over the target just like the first chapter did, but this is under, and then combined we haven't even met the goal. Smooth coloring is how we get these cool teal mixtures of where we are in the progress. And I'm someone who likes to have my chapters be all around the same length if possible for giving big fight scene chapters, because to me that pacing works as a writer and as a reader. If you are someone who just writes however you need to for a chapter and then you worry about word counts later, you could then come in and see the words and say like, wow, I have a lot of short chapters followed by a really long one. Is that a good idea, or do I need to change that up in revision for pacing? And then you could go in and set targets. Let's go back to the full manuscript. And then this is a statusing, which we're not going over in this video, but it is really helpful to have a bird's eye view here. The reason I am normally in this view for scrivenings is just because it keeps me in the writing zone. The psychological impact of seeing these progress bars either down here when you're viewing an individual document or up here cannot be overstated. Instead of staring at a blank page wondering if you'll ever finish your book, you're able to watch the progress bar, or progress bars if you do individual documents like I do, fill up in real time, and your brain starts treating writing like achieving levels in a video game. Now, targets help you stay motivated while you write, but what about when you need reference material? This is where the next feature comes in. In the video about best writing software, I talk about how you can import websites, which is super cool. And this is good and all, but I unfortunately do not have an eidetic memory. And if I want to be writing while referencing this, instead of having to click here and then click up here and find wherever my chapter is each time, I can do this thing called split screen. I'm actually going to hide the inspector so we have more space. This is split screen. I like to do it vertically like this, and they both show up the same thing when you first open it, but then you click into whichever one you want to change. So I am someone who likes to have my research on the left and my writing on the right. So you can see that was purple. That is something I had done in settings for aesthetics because purple is my favorite color. But you would select this. It would become either darker gray than this or whatever color you chose to show that this is the active window. And then you select what you want it to be from the sidebar. And this lets me have both my writing and my research open at the same time. Now, if you're someone who's like, I don't need to research things, I know the world that I'm in and everything about it, and that applies to your characters and your headquarters, that is totally fine. But if you are an outliner like I am, I tend to have my outline open and then whatever chapter I'm in, because I write summaries. Now, in this instance, I did not, because this is a book that has been reworked multiple times. But you can see I have chapter summaries for each of them. So if I'm in a chapter that hasn't been written yet and I say, what the heck is chapter 46 supposed to be? I can find that and then write it. Now, if you're someone who wants to do this for a period of time and then you're like, I need to just focus, I'm getting distracted, you click into the one that you want to make full screen. You click it here so that it is no longer that. If you are someone who doesn't like it vertically split and actually want it horizontally split, you hold the Option key before you click and you'll see the icon changed to be the horizontal line, and then you have this. And then again, if you want to go back to a single window within this, and instead of split screen, you activate the one you want, and then you click the icon. So this is incredibly useful for research heavy projects. If you're writing historical fiction, you can have the research on one side. If you're writing a series, you could have your series Bible open, and as I showed you, you could also have your outline or character sketches or settings or really anything you can think of. Even if you have one chapter where you mention something as foreshadowing and then you are finally writing the other chapter where it comes back again, you can have those two different ones open. These are not necessarily actually true, but that is an example. Split view keeps you in the flow without making you click through a million things. But what happens when you want to make major changes to your work? That is where snapshots come in and become your safety net. Raise your hand if you've ever deleted a paragraph and then immediately regretted it, but couldn't remember exactly what you wrote. You might be thinking, well, there's Command-Z or Control-Z if you are not on a Mac. And that's fine, but what if there was a better way? And then if you've ever wanted to try to write a completely different approach to a scene, a chapter, etc., but you were afraid to lose what you already had, then you might think, oh, just back up the whole project, save it as a draft on its own, duplicate the project, and keep going. That can get very problematic if you have limited space on your computer and or you are either not willing to pay for more space or you are just maxed out on the space offered by Google Drive, iCloud, Dropbox, Box, etc. So Scrivener has this thing which allows you to essentially do that, where you save the draft separately, but you can do it by individual document. Now, I hit the inspector earlier. You'll see the comments here, and then you can see notes here, bookmarks, which I don't really use, tags, and then we get to snapshots. I haven't taken a snapshot of this in forever, so this is maybe not the best example to use because I have still been drafting. There we go. The red means that I've actually already started revising and am in revision 1, which is a feature that I absolutely love, which we will get to. If you have a draft, which this says untitled and first draft, and the reason it says that in parentheses is because that's actually how I have my statuses, which is a different feature, which is covered in the eventual PDF guide that will come out. I have my first draft, which I can see down here, and it's all black text because I wasn't in revision mode. And then I took a snapshot after I had entered revision mode in the big area, did my typing, and then we see this, right? And you might be thinking, I have both. I can roll back to an older version if I want, which is amazing. But what if I don't know what the differences are between them and I want to see? First, let's look into the settings here by these 3 dots of by paragraph, by clause, and by word. You can uncheck what you don't care about. But I'm someone who, if I'm seeing the differences, I want to see all of them. So you're going to click compare. We are actively in this version, actually. So I'm going to select the one that I'm not currently seeing in the big window and click compare, which then changes how this looks, and it looks much more similar to what you might be familiar with in track changes in Word or Google Docs' suggesting feature. We now see that the red is what has been crossed out. It is not the same red as in the main document window of revision mode. Red is stuff that's been cut, which is also emphasized by the strike through, and then the blue is what has been added. And you can see these changes as I had gone through the book, as I had gone through this chapter. If you have a lot of these versions, you're going to want to make sure you know where you are. And the way that I guarantee that is that there is a setting where if you click Command S, you could automatically generate a snapshot, or you can do it every time you close your documents. And then also, if you just remember, you go here and you click the plus, you can click minus, although that can be a dangerous game to play and you maybe don't want to play it. So I've mentioned revision mode multiple times in this section, and we're finally going to talk about it. I am going to leave this snapshot because it is still accurate. I haven't touched this chapter since. But let's say I'm going back to do another round of line editing because I wasn't satisfied with the first, or I'm moving on to copy editing. It doesn't matter as long as you know which round of editing you are in, because you click into your document. You would want to make sure you have your snapshot before you start making any changes. And then you go up to Format, Revision Mode, and you'll see these. They limit it to 5, but what you could do is you say remove all revisions and it turns it all black, and then you could restart it, and hopefully your snapshots would help you see the correct versions. Now I'm going to roll back because I do want to see the red properly, and it asks you, are you sure you want to do that? And now we can actually delete this because this was the version where I had removed all the red, and it automatically saves a snapshot of what you currently have before you do a rollback. So there's red here, and you can see my cursor is purple because that is something I have set on my computer in general, but we want second revision. It's going to say, do you want to enter revision mode? And we are now going to be writing in blue. The cursor is blue, I can see it. It's also up here, and because I don't use colors in my documents other than when I'm using revision mode, I know that I'm in revision mode. I want to change this to be a little more passive, although this is not something I would actually do, where I said, was he here to kill her? probably. Then we have that in blue, and let's say I went through the whole document, did that, and then I would do another snapshot. And then you use the snapshot features and you continue on. To change your revision mode, you go back up to Format, Revision Mode, and you select whichever one is appropriate. Remove current revision color would make that black, but not everything black like the remove all revisions did. And let's say you are out of revision mode, then you would say none, because you might be revising an early chapter but still need to draft a completely new one. And again, like I said, my computer just has the setting of a purple cursor, but purple is not actually a color I have set for revision mode. So I know I'm out of revision mode, and I have new chapter words for a first draft. And you can actually now see hovering over that it says that I have written 9 words for this session, because we have the 6 here and the was he here to kill her. You can see that progress that we talked about with the targets. Revision mode helps you track changes throughout your writing process, but eventually you're going to need to turn your Scrivener project into a properly formatted manuscript, especially if you are querying for the first time. So down here we have, if we go back up to Manuscript, we see certain columns that I only care about, but you could add a column that says include and compile, and you'll see that I have checked every single chapter within it. This compile means that you want it to be formatted for the manuscript. Now, let's say an agent has only asked for a partial, so I would uncheck whatever I would not want to be generating, because it's easier to do that here rather than generate the whole manuscript and then have to go in and delete it from that document before you send. So the way to compile is you make sure that these are checked, and we're actually going to go into a different view where we go into a specific document. This check mark next to the rectangle, which represents your document, means it's included in compile. Click on it, it then becomes an X, which means it won't be included in compile. And let's say you want to go over that one more time before you actually do it. That's totally fine, because file compile leads you to this. I made a video about how to format your manuscript properly, and Scrivener does it for you perfectly. Most of the industry still uses Word, so you'd want to select the Word document. .docx is the most recent version of Word, and they default to Times New Roman. These check marks show that you are including them in the compile. Front matter comes in the novel template. So you could say add front matter, add back matter, or uncheck it and say none, or if you only want to select a certain thing within your front matter, you could select that. You wouldn't want to include the comments because those get entered in brackets, which is distracting. You could then use this, remove trailing white space from documents, which is probably good. That way your manuscript isn't super long if it isn't actually long. Remove footnotes, export inspector footnotes as endnotes, import inline footnotes as endnotes. All these things you can change. Remove highlighting color, remove text color, which you would want to do after all your revision mode colors. And then you have replacements. If you have a name that you decided to change at the last minute, you enter it here, and then you say with, and you hover over these, or we can widen it and see what it says. Case sensitive whole word and regx. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's just regular execution where it just does it. I'm not sure. I've never actually had to use this feature because I normally use search and replace within the document before compiling. But you have all these options, and then you also have assign section layouts if you want. So you'll see that I have folders, which means it's a chapter and then scenes within them. So if I mark this as a chapter header, I would just want this and not the blank pages that comes after it. And then section heading if I use that, and then if like chapter 1, which is a whole chapter on its own, I want this. So it says chapter. So if we go back to the list here, we then say what each one is. Structure based means it automatically tries to figure it out. And most of the times it gets it right, but sometimes it doesn't. So here it properly says this is a chapter heading and those are scenes. But this is just a chapter. We don't even have sections in this book, so we can just say chapter and go through, and it does the formatting properly without us having to go in and change it. Then you click compile, it goes into Word wherever you want it. I like to say to open it immediately after so I can then check. So how do I use these 5 features? I use the split screen and the targets when I am drafting. I use the snapshots and revision mode when I am revising, and I use compile when it is all done, or at least done enough to move on to the next stage, which normally involves sending it to someone. I hope these features were interesting to you and you test them out for yourself. And then come back and let me know which features you have used and how you like them. If you are so inclined, you could actually comment now and let me know which one you are most excited to try out.